Can we get a little business out of the way first off?
Yeah, sure.
Happy belated birthday. Happy belated birthday. You share the day, right? 25th.
Birthday.
What about you?
I had a birthday.
When was that?
Oh, March.
It was March. It's a little removed from the
You
conversation.
forgot me as usual. Thanks, Mac.
All right, anyway.
January 5th, me, same as my wife, few decades apart, though.
Okay, go ahead. And while we're going,
August 17th.
Is that about it, Matt?
that's about it. Thanks for being here, guys.
Okay.
Oh, that was easy.
When's the last time this group in this size got together to talk about this movie?
45 years ago.
45 years ago.
You've never done this?
I don't know if
Never.
I don't remember.
Really?
I don't think so.
He did in San Francisco.
No, I
20
never had the pleasure of working with this guy. That's one of the regrets.
We're gonna actually let's get that out of the way right now. Robert, you're sitting here. You're not in The Godfather, but you and your partner Jane Rosenthal are kind of responsible for this reunion. Why did you think that this was something you wanted to do?
Well, it was the anniversary of the 45th anniversary, and they asked me to ask Francis if he would want to do it, and he didn't want to do it. And I begged him, please, this will never happen again, blah, blah, blah. And so finally he graciously said, yes, I'll do it, and da-da-da. And I said, do you mind if we call the rest of the cast? He said, okay. And so it came together.
I'm glad
slowly.
you said 45. I was telling my
He
friends.
made it sound like it was an obituary. We'll never do this again.
I was telling my friends in the office we were going to do this, and aside from their jealousy, they were all shocked to hear it's 45 years. How does it feel that long to you, Al?
Well, everything feels long to me now. Everything is like in the distance, and I question whether I did it or not. That kind of thing. No, it's fine. It doesn't feel that long because it's somewhat in conscious life. It's referred to a lot. It's so sort of ever present that those movies, I think.
Talia, does it feel like
my life.
45 years to you?
feels like always yesterday because it's a movie.
It's
and,
like we
and
never
part
did
of a
it.
mythology.
Really, it just was there.
You say it's always in the conversation. Guys in the back, this is perhaps
Guys
the most...
in the back?
Yeah, this is perhaps... this is going to be trouble. I can tell this is going to be a long day.
No, because this is so exciting and fun.
This is maybe the most talked about, studied, dissected, perhaps imitated, quoted movie of all time. Why are you surprised at how much attention it's gotten and how long it's lasted?
No, the truth of the matter is, and this may never happen again, and it's all really due to Francis. I mean, Francis put together a cast the likes of which I've never had the pleasure again of working. I mean, he put together a crew that all became the top of their, before they were known, whether it would be Gordy Willis, Walter Murch, et cetera, et cetera. And I hope my son gets close to doing something like that, but I rather doubt it.
They tried to oust Coppola,
Yeah, talk to me a little bit. Tell me the behind scenes. You should probably be the one to tell me, but Robert, you start the story.
No, I'll tell you exactly what happened. The first week, I didn't know Coppola that well, but I was hired. It was great, and they had a standby director who was an editor at the time to take over in case he failed, and that guy's best friend was the first AD. The first AD runs the ship, and Francis weathered that because of the studio, and I got a great respect for Coppola for doing that.
Why was there so little confidence?
Who knows?
That he was going to succeed
take credit
at
now.
They
that?
all wanted to take
Everybody
credit.
did it,
Bobby
yeah.
Evans and all. Coppola could have done this. He could have done this with Disney or anybody.
We had done a
It was his
picture with
vision.
Francis before, the
It's his
main
vision.
people. Bobby, not Bobby, there's two Bobby, it's terrible. But the older one in the back.
The older one. I'm the oldest.
So you mentioned Robert Evans, right? Who was the executive in charge
He
for
tried to take credit.
Paramount.
Forget that guy.
He was quoted one time when he said that casting the Corleone family was a bigger war than anything that the Corleone family ever came across.
That sounds
Why was
very
it so
Hollywood.
tumultuous?
They don't admit to some of the wonderful statements they made, such as to Francis. I was friendly with Francis since he was like 23, and he says, if you mention Brando's name again, you're fired. They don't lay claim to that.
Right.
But, and everybody there was an argument with.
Yeah.
I'll make a couple of statements. Tell me true or false. At one point, you were cast as Michael?
Never.
Never?
Listen,
He wanted
never.
to be.
We
He
went
wa-
up. We
True.
all went up and had a
True, he's
heads
going
come in
true.
a bowl
True,
by Eleanor.
true.
We took a thing. We did a test, and he had us cast in about 4 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Then he went to New York, called me up 3 months later. He said, "Jimmy, they want you to come in and test." I said, "What do you got, a Porsche? You want me to drive around a block?" That's what. And I know Francis had, like, he had Michael was the Sicilian. Like, he had a picture. He didn't, you know, he had a picture. He wanted Michael to be the Sicilian one, wanted Sonny to be the Americanized version. Nothing was by mistake, you know? And there was no chance. There was
Talk
no
to me
chance.
about you getting Michael.
The gang that couldn't shoot straight.
Well,
Didn't that work out somewhere?
I believe Francis saw me on Broadway in a play called Does a Tiger Wear a Necktie, and wanted me to be, I don't know if you know this, wanted me to star in his next movie. And he was an unknown director at that time, except he did a couple of really good films with Jimmy and Bob here. What was the name of that film?
The Rain People.
The Rain People. Very good movie. Shirley Knight was in it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he,
Your girlfriend. Yeah.
oh, not mine. No, I know.
No. He slapped me in the arm.
You mean other people have girlfriends?
No. I only
So, I went to San Francisco because he wrote a movie with me in mind where I played this professor who falls in love with one of the students, and it was a magical script. You know, Francis won the Oscar for the script of Patton. He wrote Patton, and he's a really great writer. And so he wanted me to play this part. So I spent days with him in San Francisco. That's when he took me to Zoetrope, you know, when it was first starting there with playing. Shooting pool was Jimmy, I saw. I don't even think you looked right through me because I was an unknown at the time, so you were going to have none of it. There was Jimmy. No, I'm joking. He was
No,
fine.
I was huge.
No,
Right.
he was fine.
Huge.
He was fine. But Spielberg and Lucas, no, you were fine. I mean,
Fine as hair.
you were a gentleman, which was so unusual. Okay. But he was very nice to me. But he was there with Lucas and Spielberg, and they were all unknown at the time. And I remember having the impression that they weren't actors. You know, I could just feel it. You know,
They were just hanging out?
when people are just they all hung up. They were Zoetrope. What was Zoetrope? Zoetrope was
I guess they
it was
were all,
it was like a film company that they had formed. They were young, unknown people, and Francis and I just toured in San Francisco together. We went out because he wanted to get to know me better because I was doing a role for him in this movie. And the movie, of course, fell through because I forget the studio was involved, but they said, why do you want this short guy, meaning me? Why do you want him? What is he? Who are you? You know, and the next thing you know, we were out. So it was a beautiful script, never got made.
But was the studio in favor of you getting cast as Michael Corleone?
Oh, no.
No, my God.
As somebody said there, Brando Pacino over my dead body.
Yeah.
Who did they want
No,
to
he
be?
kept sneaking out. Very quickly, I want to show you how progress, General Electric progress is our most important product. We went up. Bobby D wasn't there.
No.
And us 3 or 4, Eleanor literally would have put his wife, cut her hair, 60 millimeter
40s
test,
style.
and they bought 4 corned beef sandwiches. That was the price of that thing. Now, I get called 3 months later, come in, I went to pay. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Bob tested for Michael.
Yeah, everybody.
Marty
The whole city
I remember that
I
day.
walked
But
in.
they really wanted Redford to
Every
play
single
Mike.
actor that ever lived was sitting on 57th Street. What was that studio? With accents. I don't care if they came from Ireland, if they came from wherever they came from. They were sitting against a stone brick wall. They spent $400,000 in tests, right?
Yeah.
Then they said, you're going to play my... I was never going to do it. Carmen Caridi was going to do
was
that.
there,
Was gonna do this and that. And then at the end, we got the cast for the 4 corned beef sandwich. You see what I mean by General Electric?
The actual budget was $6 million. That's all.
The whole city audition and you get the role.
That's because the director wanted me. You see, it's always the director's vision, and that's what we saw. And I think one of my advantages was I got to know him a little. He got to know me in those 5 days in San Francisco. That's why I mentioned it.
So back to the director. He's your brother.
He's my brother.
He didn't
Yes.
want you in this movie.
No, and you know, if you think about it, he was under great stress. I had no business being in that first movie because it's true what you said, Bobby. He could have been fired. It took about 2 weeks before they decided
they were looking to fire him.
They were looking to fire him, and why was I? Oh, it was
And so he didn't. The story I read, Talia, is he didn't want you in the movie because he didn't want you to have to witness some of what he was going to have to go through in that movie.
And it's all true. It's all true because he could have been fired at any minute. Apparently, the dailies came in very dark, and at a certain moment, after 2 weeks, they cut it together and they went, oh, there's something really great here. But it took 2 weeks before it, and it was awful. It was awful to see this. It really was.
I want to talk about those dailies in a second, but
Yes.
and I'm going to do this for the guys only. So spare me here for a
I
second.
understand that.
Could she stay? Could she stay?
Don't. Yes, she can stay.
right.
Don't take me wrong.
I'll go in the kitchen.
You're 4 very attractive men now, but back when these movies came out, these were 4 studs. These were 4 serious Hollywood studs. Would you agree at least with that?
Yes,
She has to walk out with
No,
us.
no.
I mean,
It's
when you
true.
go back and look at the film
Yes.
from those first 2 movies,
Real
they
handsome
could not have
men.
hurt your dating profile in
You
Hollywood.
got to look at everybody else too. Listen, I mean, John, we all miss, and I mean, there was so
John
many.
Cazale.
wonderful-
Oh gosh, gee.
And everybody.
And then there was Marlon. That presence.
Yeah. Marlon.
That presence. You know.
Tell me a Marlon story. Who's got a good Marlon story during the shooting of The Godfather?
Oh my God.
Go ahead.
The first day we met him, because he's my oldest. I'm not very proud, but I'll tell the whole world. My oldest, dearest acting friend, and he made me moon Brando on the way home from that luncheon.
Made you moon?
a car to car
Second
on
Avenue.
Second Avenue.
I saw it actually.
On Second Avenue.
You pulled your pants down on Second Avenue
I
in
didn't.
front of Marlon
No,
Brando?
in a car. Bobby's famous for that. I never did it because
he said you can hardly
my
sing,
ass
he's
is
so
not
skinny.
existent.
It's true.
Skinny ass.
That became the thing around the Godfather
Couldn't see
set.
A lot of
people?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was in fashion at that time.
I think the best story, if you remember, and I'll tell you how brilliant Francis is. When Luca Brasi comes in and says, Don Corleone, I am honored to be here on the day of your daughter's wedding. May your Francis looked at him and said, what the hell is going on? So he grabs me because he was a friend of some friends we had. He says, Jimmy, go do something. What do you mean, do something? He says, make them do something. Francis, what do you want me? Do something, he said to me. So I go to Lenny, who had a tongue the size of a shoebox, okay? And I said, Lenny, listen, it's a close-up. When they open the door, put a piece of tape on your tongue and say F you, write the F you on a thing. Please, Jimmy, like a kid, please, Jimmy, don't make me do this. I said, no, you got to do it. Please. But finally, I convinced him to do it. He opens the door. Everybody laughs, and he goes, Don Corleone, right? Everybody laughed. So Francis says, great, let's go again. Okay, now we're ready to go. We go again. He says, Don Corleone, and Brando had FU2 on his tongue when he said Luca, But we went back, and nothing changed, nothing. So cleverly, 3 weeks later, he shot the wedding scene, and he put Luca in the corner,
Practicing.
studying
Yeah.
a speech to make it all work. I mean, it was a brilliant piece of...
See, and then they shot that, and it was like, yes, please, and he was
That's
rehearsing.
the benefit of
Brilliant.
shooting things before that don't necessarily follow, so that you have time to come up with
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff. It's traditional, really.
The wedding scene sticks in my mind here. Even though you were very familiar with Hollywood, young actress, just describe what it's like to be shooting a scene dancing at what was your wedding with Marlon Brando.
I was overwhelmed. I mean, I couldn't believe when he came towards, and he's a very handsome man. He wore a lot of makeup to age him, and he would take it off at night, and he was just, quite stunning. But
He's
anyway,
only 39 years old.
he was. How old was he?
He was 39?
That's
No,
all.
he was
47.
He says 47.
Well,
Oh, he's 39.
Bobby loses track.
but he was.
We're going to look it up.
Okay.
How old was he? But whatever he was, he was incredibly handsome. And then he put all, you know, the stuff in there. But anyway, I can't follow. I'm sort of dyslexic, and I'm dancing with him, and I'm tripping all over. But he was so kind to me. He
And
was
you're
such a kind
dancing
man.
with Marlon Brando.
I know. Yes.
Story goes out a couple of weeks in, actually after the wedding scene was shot. You and Diane Keaton go out, you have a couple of drinks, and you both say, this movie's going to suck. This is going to flop.
But he had so much company. They put $2.5 million in the
Not
picture.
me.
You didn't think so. You thought it was going to be a hit?
Absolutely.
Well,
Why didn't you think it was going to be a hit?
In general, usually a very good script, which it was, and Francis and Mario Puzo put it together. I mean, so that's good. It was a great script, actually. But the whole environment of shooting it, filming something, at the time, we were so young and inexperienced. We didn't know what filmmaking was, really. We were stage actors, primarily. And everything was all over the place, all the takes and the different, and the scene, all due respect, is a scene of exposition, right, guys? I'm just looking for approval at all times. Okay, so it was a scene of exposition, and it isn't. There's no fireworks in it. As a matter of fact, they were going to let me go. It was real, and you know that.
God.
You know that. It was all. I think everybody here knows it. I was out. By all, you know, and even Francis called me to dinner at the Ginger Man. Remember the Ginger Man?
Sure, here in town.
Yeah. Called me to dinner. And I knew something was up because he was sitting there with his family. And he didn't invite me to sit down. So I just stood there by the table in a restaurant as he told me, I have all this faith in you, but, you know, you got to... I really was gone. And he was eating a steak, and while he was talking to me, and I thought, what did I do? And he says, look, we're going to show rushes, and go on in there and take a look at what you've been doing. I said, all right. I said, okay. And I went in, and I saw the next day the footage. And I thought, well, it doesn't look very good to me, but it's sort of what I had planned.
No, but
I
he planned that whole thing. That's what
I did. I had this thing in my mind that early on I'm like somewhat of a nomad, and later on I become this sort of. I thought there was I thought there was what was it? Kind of. When you see Michael at the end, he's someone you sort of don't know, you know, that he has a certain thing. That's what I was thinking of at the time. And I didn't express it. I didn't know how to express it to Francis. I just didn't know how to talk about it like that. Now I think I might have been a little more articulate. As you can see, now I'm not making any sense. But at the time, I looked at it and I said, okay, you know, actors usually don't want to reveal anything like that. Just said, oh, I see what you're getting at. Yes. I thought, well, I'll get lucky or something. But I knew I was on the way out. So which is strangely, oddly enough, I don't like to say this, it sounds presumptuous, but I didn't really care. That was an environment I wasn't very comfortable in, I'll be honest. You know, especially when you're doing scenes and you hear people snickering on the other end. You say, well, this isn't going well. You know, when is the ball going to fall? Anyway, Francis, being as clever as he is, gets the schedule changed and puts the Solozzo scene in the updated schedule so that I'll be in a position, he'll be in a position to show the studio this is what Pacino can do.
Well, can we just make sure people at home know what we're talking about? We're talking about the restaurant scene.
The restaurant
where you get the gun out of the bathroom.
That's when it happened.
That's when they saw the potential, and they kept me in the picture from that. And that was Francis's doing, really. I mean, he arranged it, and I didn't even know.
I didn't know that.
Well, I'm listening to all these stories, and I'm actually thinking of you, and I'm thinking, knowing what was going on behind the scenes of this movie, why in the world would you want to be in the second one? Why would you even audition for the second one? Were you nervous about it?
No, I wasn't. No, I was honored to be chosen, that Francis wanted me for the second. The first was a big hit. The second was going to be, you know, the idea of playing Brando when he was younger was great. I mean,
No trepidations about that? Kind of taking on a different version of that same Vito Corleone role?
No, not at all. Not at all.
It was really perfect, though. I mean, I don't think you spent a second thinking,
it was perfect.
oh, it's
Yes.
De Niro, and it's not. I mean, it was great.
As a matter of fact, what he did was so, you know, he did little gestures as the young Vito that you see, if you see it chronologically. I could talk about that too. The difference between seeing The Godfather 1 and 2 chronologically as opposed to the actual movie that they will be seeing tonight. And that is that there's gestures that Bob makes that are that you see in Godfather 1, you know, the thing they're very subtle. So it was interesting, again, for him to have that model and that he came up with these ideas. But there's two different movies. In the chronological movie is different than part 2 because part 2 engages you in the way that it goes back and forth between the young Vito and Michael, and it sort of blends and sort of interfaces with both lives. And that is a different concept by Francis. And the chronological, and it worked.
It was,
Yeah, it
So
worked.
you're
that
seeing
also
a different
worked
movie.
great.
There's something, had I known this, I was friendly enough to Francis to say, you're not shooting me under the conditions if you're doing 2. I didn't know that. I would have never let him shoot me. I would have had a big argument. I could have made money too in number 2.
But you are in number 2.
We had like a half. Remember when we made Francis eat that pepper? You said there's no way on God's earth you'll make him eat that hot pepper. You remember that?
I don't remember that, but
Oh, you kidding me? You remember?
What's that?
When we went to that restaurant, I put that yellow pepper. They said you can't eat this. You just dip it in water.
Yeah.
I said Francis is like a piranha. What are you talking
well,
about?
I had so many sessions with you with what you would be doing. You'd get me. Remember when you played
Did you ever
Tano?
tell me what
We
I was
played
doing?
Tano in The Lone Ranger. Which is go to town to get me some supply. He calls me, he comes, says, Tano, come here. And I'm Tano, and I don't speak anything. But he said, "No." Yeah.
That was Don Rickles. That was.
And he
I
says,
played Don
Tano, go to
Rickles
the
for whole
city,
bit.
and I want you to get, and he starts by a couple of things, Band-Aids, whatever, and it never stops. It just never stops. The supply, he can come up with it, and I just stand there nodding, and I'm always about to go to my horse, and he says, no, wait a second, just come back.
Robert, tell me about Tom. What made him tick?
What made him what?
Tom, what made the character tick?
Well, he was a stepson. He couldn't step across the line. He had to be in the background, both, you know, as an actor and as the character. You know, he could only take orders. And when I first got the part, it was my friend Louis Cosentino. He was from East Harlem, and what gave me the whole character was Carmine Tremonti was a head guy up in East Harlem, and he said there was a guy that used to light his cigarette, hold his chair, do everything like a millionaire gopher. You couldn't make fun of that guy, but that's what he was, a millionaire gopher. That was all I needed as a guide to help me play that part. He was like a millionaire gopher to Brand.
What made Sonny tick?
Well, it's really funny. The first scene, I was so awful. I mean, there was in the Genco olive oil thing there. I was supposed to interrupt. I really didn't have a grip on anything, and I was not feeling. And that night, I swear to God, I went home and I was shaving, and I thought of Don Rickles. Don't ask me why. And I swear to God, and I just. I came in the next day, I busted Al Ruddy's chop. I busted everybody's chops. And I could have done Hamlet like that. No, seriously, it was Don Rickles.
Connie, what made Connie
Oh,
tick?
sure.
Oh, well, Connie, she was the female in this extraordinary family, and I thought she was incredibly loved and not respected. And that's a terrible combination to become a victim, which I thought she became. And later on, and she has no spot, oddly enough. Francis said something to me. She doesn't belong. The queen is dead, long live the queen, until the mother dies. And then she has some role there. But she was a victimized woman, and that's a dangerous woman.
Talk about the transformation of Michael from clean-cut war hero to ruthless member of the family. And by the way, I read one time that you didn't consider him a gangster. Is that true?
Well, I don't think that Michael ever considered himself a gangster in the more traditional sense. I think he was sort of part of the circumstances that took place. Things happened, you know. How do you say what's the word used?
confluence of events.
Confluence of events, and that the near death of his father, the being handed the mantle, all these things perpetuated Michael, I think. And after that, the father knew that he was able to deal with it. He didn't go to Fredo, he didn't go to Tom, quite capable Tom, but he went to the son.
But the father wanted you to get out and go
Of course.
legitimate
Well, that
at
was
some
the
point,
whole thing.
and
Not
then
the,
this
what,
didn't
that's not the
happen.
plan your dad had for
But
you.
it
It's not the plan
didn't-
my dad had for me. That's
Yeah,
that scene.
that's the, oh,
Written by, what was his
Robert
name?
Town?
Robert Town.
Was it Robert Town?
Beautiful. He wrote that scene. I remember in the dressing room going to Marlon after he had read the scene and he looked at me, he said, "It's pretty good, huh?" I said, "Yeah, seems good, yeah." He says, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And that was it. I mean, this rehearsal we had, it was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. So, but my point is, it was the transference of power, that scene, and so it was loaded anyway when you go in for that kind of thing. So the scene already is loaded.
While we're talking about scenes, just take me through briefly, Jimmy, the shooting of the scene at the toll booth. Spoiler alert for people who don't know.
Briefly?
It didn't end well for Sonny. Tell me about the scene.
Well, if there weren't girls there, I would have never done it. But there were girls there, and I couldn't back down like the coward that I am. But I mean, they put 147 squibs on me. But in them days, those squibs were, they blow out. And it's just simply that, there were girls there, and I didn't want to look like a,
Yes, girls.
girls there?
I didn't see that coming.
I didn't say
What do you want to see
You
coming?
might
I
have
stood
dreamt
there
that,
like a
Jimmy.
moron. What are you going to be, a genius to get blown up? I mean, no, but we literally had to, it was literally a ballet because in the shoots, it blew the Bondo out of the car, the very same squibs. So I had to move this hand like this and move the hand like that. And I was bleeding this, and then I had a cigarette, and that was the end of it. Thank you.
Did these roles follow you guys for a while? Yeah? Al, did the role of Michael Corleone follow you?
Oh, yeah. Yes, it did. For years. It did.
Talia?
It did. It did, and I was also Francis's sister, so I had another little bump to jump over, which I think, happened when I did this other role, which was very helpful. But I have to say this, working with my brother, I think he's the world's greatest director. So, I mean, I don't know. You're all great, but I just think he's just supreme artist.
Robert, did it follow you? No?
Not so much.
No,
I'm a character actor. I do different things.
Me, I never got a script unless there were like 12 people dead by page 20 for like a long time. And then they go, "You can sing and dance." Yeah. Well, nobody ever asked me, it's like, So, yeah, it did follow me.
What about you, Robert? Number two, did it follow you?
Well, yeah, in some ways, I guess, and I tried to do others.
You got an Oscar for it, too.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a big thing.
Was the sequel better than the original?
Jeez.
James Kahn might have something to say about that, but was the sequel
No, I
better
don't
than
have
the
nothing to
original?
say about it.
What do you think?
Except that I wasn't.
It was different. It really was a different, because I think Francis was trying to express something there that he was really talking and thinking of Michael as the.
Both
That's
of them
why
were better than the third one.
We don't mention that.
Oh, that was. You and
I was with you.
I'll set him up, you kick him through, all right?
the third one upset him for some reason.
It upset you. You called me in the middle of the night from Rome. He's screaming.
Yeah, I know. I thought, well, there were a lot of stories about that too, which will be unsaid here. But I think even more stories about that than other things. And it's a very intimate sort of series of things that happened, which is not. This is not the place for it.
It's okay.
But I will say that where were we?
We were talking about, was the sequel better than
Oh yeah.
the first?
Well, Francis's idea, I believe, his vision, is what he told me,
much.
was he was trying to talk about it sorry for this word, metaphorically. But sometimes there's no other word that serves better than that. So he was talking about the transference of the second generation Italian, the first generation being Robert and that group and that world, and the second, which is the struggle, the intermediary, to go toward the American ideals. And that was a struggle in our society at the time. And that's what he was speaking to. I know Francis told me that's what he was trying to say with this movie. Yeah.
And it became a tragedy. It really, because now brother kills brother.
Yeah.
And boy, and so it got on that Greek level.
Exactly. He was very influenced by that. That this was his idea. And that motivated him, really. It was omnipresent. Yeah.
Last two. Godfather 2, I think, launched this idea that there was this rivalry between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, that it was this simmering rivalry that some people say existed for decades. Any truth to it?
What do you mean?
No, we you know, we've known each other a long time. We were up for the same parts, but that's what it is. But not a rivalry. It's just a normal.
We sort of grew up
thing,
together.
Yeah, we sort of.
Did you force each other to become better and better actors?
I don't know about that. I mean, Al's taught me things, certain things that I do today, that he started, certain procedures, certain things that, like, I always like to have a reading of a script that I'm going to do or consider. And he started that with me. I forget so long, I forget. He started, so yeah, it's a great idea, let me do it, you know.
And he said a brilliant thing to me early on. He said, if people don't know how to rehearse, don't rehearse.
Simple.
Because there are actors who aren't schooled in that kind of thing. They do something else. They're great, but they don't go through that. And again, there is the medium of film, which you can do that. Sometimes it's more helpful for a movie if you don't rehearse it.
What's your favorite line?
Once I told him one night, I think I remember, was you were going to do, what was the thing with De Palma?
Scarface.
Scarface. Yeah. I said, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it.
Oh.
I said, I'd want to do it. You know, you got to do it. You got to do it. That's what I think I remember. I don't know. We were outside.
Well, I thought maybe.
I don't know.
I think so. That might have motivated me.
Worked out well. Favorite line in the movie, in The Godfather? Jim?
Just before you went on, I had the same problem with Talia.
The simmering rivalry?
We were up for the same part all the time.
Yes.
And then she told me, Jimmy, I think you should do this one. I said, well, okay. Anyway, my favorite line from
what's your favorite line
Al's
in the
favorite
movie?
line from Godfather.
What's yours?
Oh, well, it can't be the obvious. I really can't come up with a favorite line.
Robert, do you have one?
Who's the guy that came over to me and tried to get pardoned? The old guy. I said, sorry, you can't do it.
Oh,
Sorry,
Tessio.
Abe Vigoda.
Yeah, Tessio.
Well, sorry, Tessio, I can't do it. I dismissed it.
Talia?
Help me out, guys. That keep your enemies closer. Didn't he say?
Keep your friends close and your enemies
closer.
Yeah.
Right.
Al?
Oh, could you go to Bob?
I mean, but you know, the famous, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
there's that.
probably
How about Fredo, you broke my heart?
Oh, gee, yeah,
gee,
that's a beauty.
There's the Greek tragedy right in that
that
line.
was tough.
You guys are great. Thank you. Happy 45th anniversary. And thanks for bringing this group together.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, Bobby De Niro made us all happy.
He did. He
Thanks,
did
Bobby.
this.
Cheers for De Niro.
guys.
Way to go, guys.
Yes.
Nice job.
Thank you, Tribeca.